Hello guys, so we are going to continue where we left off last time, which was this plotting stuff. We had not started this yet, and this is hopefully the final part to this 10 minutes to Pandas Gone Long series. Just I'd like to introduce myself again. I'm Afla. This is the first time I'm reading some proper documentation for any sort of programming related stuff. And I had always heard people suggesting me that I should go read the documentation and it would be very helpful for me. But seeing the documentation was very intimidating at first, seeing a 3000 page PDF sort of. So I decided to turn this into a YouTube series where I'll be learning the stuff myself, and at the same time I'll be helping others out as well in navigating through the documentation. So we've been covering the 10 minutes to pandas so far, and this is now we have finally reached towards the end. So let's just delve right into it. So now let's look at plotting. So we use the standard convention for referencing the matplotlib API. First off, I have no clue what API is, so I'm just going to search API like I've been doing in the past few videos. API is an acronym for Application Programming Interface, which is a software intermediary that allows two applications to talk to each other. Each time you use an application like Facebook, send an instant message, or check the weather on your phone, you are using an API. Okay, so basically it sort of, yeah, it allows two applications to talk to each other, which this image is quite accurately representing, I guess. So in the browser, you give a request via the internet, and then the web server returns the request. Okay, so getting that out first. Now, oh, I forgot to load the stuff. Wait a second, I'll just open it. Yeah. Oh, I'd have to rerun them all. Is there some way to run all? Yeah. So now we need to do this. Import matplotlib.pyplot as PLT. So basically, PLT is the alias like for pandas. We've been using PD, and matplot.pyplot. I've used this library before, just for very basic stuff while seeing YouTube tutorials. It's basically used for plotting data, so which the name is quite suggestive of. And then plt.close all. I'm not sure what that does, but let's just look that up as well. plt.close, close by itself, uh, close all, closes all the figure windows. Okay, and now what are figure windows? Figure windows in matplotlib Python. I guess these are the figure windows. I'm not quite sure, but yeah, these graphs are most probably the figure windows. We can have a look at the matplotlib documentation as well in another video, in another series sort of. So let's just complete this first. So now we are again creating a panda series TS, taking random values from the rand and the normal distribution, 1000 random values to be precise, and then setting the index to start from the 1st of Jan 2000, having 100 periods. So let's just do that, printing out TS, and yeah, here you have it, random values, and then doing this. This basically is the CumSum or the cumulative sum function, and it does the cumulative sum. Cumulative sum is something you might be familiar with if you've worked with frequencies before. It basically adds the successive columns. So basically, this got added to this, and this value got replaced with the sum. Then this was added, and the value again got replaced. So you see that these two were negative, so they enhanced the value in the negative direction, while this positive one decreased the value in the negative direction, so it made it a little more towards zero. So you can see this value is smaller than this, and so on. This is the cumulative sum. So basically the last value is the sum of all the entries in this entire column. And now we are doing something called ts.plot, and here we go. So we have this plot right here, and right off the bat you might see it's different from here, and you might guess the reason because we've seen that countless times by now. But even if you aren't able to, it's just because we are taking random data. Uh, the property of random data is it shouldn't be same. So in taking 1,000 values, there should be a very low chance that we both get the same graph. So on a data frame, the plot method is a convenience to plot all of the columns with labels. Okay, so we are now looking at this plot method. So they've created a new data frame taking random values from the normal distribution. The index is again the ts dot index. Okay, and columns are these. So basically, this means they are taking 1,000 values, four sets of 1,000 values, and assigning them to these columns. If we print this, we are getting these 1,000 values, and it's ending on the same date, the 26th of September 2002. The 26th of September 2002. And again, you can do the same cumulative sum stuff, and right off the bat, we've done that. You can check it does the cumulative sums with all the columns now instead of doing that with just one. And now we have done this elt.figure. I have not used this figure size this. So basically I guess it's telling us what the figure size would be. I'm not sure what it's doing. Maybe in pixels. What does this do? A unique identifier. If a figure with that identifier already exists, the figure is made active and returned. Okay, creates a new figure or activates an existing figure. Okay, and then df.plot. Once again, we have the plot for all the datas now. Looks visually satisfying to me for some reason. But yeah, and then we can add the legends as well. And then here we go. No handles with labels found to put in legend. For some reason, it didn't. Should I do them in the same? Let's just look at the difference in things if we do use this and this together, and if we use just one of them. So here we go, and I can't see anything different. So this and this. Hmm. The scaling is the same, the graphs look the same, the legends are there. Let's just look this up. I think I remember now what this does. It changes the position of the legend if I'm not wrong. So if we do this, yeah, upper right instead of best. Yeah. So basically, what this does is these are the legends, the ABCD. So when you set the lock to be best, it automatically places them wherever it sees the best possible free space to place them without disturbing the graphs. But you can manually set them as well. So upper right places them here, lower left. Let's just try that out as well. And here we go, lower left, and yeah, lower left in this case is the same as best. Best automatically looks that up for you. So if you're going to customize stuff, maybe you have a standard you need to follow for some research paper or stuff, that the legends need to be aligned in a particular position, while pandas doesn't feel that it is the best position. Then you can do this lock stuff. Lock is, yeah, location of the legend. Hmm. So the basic matplotlib stuff for plotting is done. And now we get to the really cool part, that is the getting data in and out. So all this while we've been creating data, but in the real world you might get an Excel sheet and you might have to do some statistical analysis, say calculate the average age of the employees or calculate the median salary of the employees and so on. So you need to get that data first into uh, the whatever notebook you're using. Otherwise, creating a data frame by typing all that stuff out is going to be a real pain and nearly impossible in many cases. So, writing to a CSV file, CSV is basically short for comma separated values. So, you can write this to a CSV file. The simple syntax is df.tocsv foo.csv. So basically, what this does is takes your df data frame, converts it to CSV, and names it foo.csv. So doing this will create a full CSV file in the place where I'm working. I'm working in this pandas folder, and this is the CSV file. You can just open it, and yeah, this was our DF. It had 1,000 rows. Remember, we just had taken values from the random, and you can see 1001, and you might wonder, oh, is there something wrong? No, there isn't anything wrong. The stuff is the first row is being assigned to the column headings, hence we are getting this as this. And yeah, that's that. And you can also read that same file. So what you can basically do is pd.read.csv and name the file if it is in the same folder. So if it was in some other folder, you would have to use some other, like the folder name and then the name. I'll show an example for that as well. Let's just have a look at the example. So in the first video I had created this data folder and taken data from this Stack Overflow public survey. So I'm just going to copy this name and do this. So pd.read.csv, pd.read_csv, and give the name .csv, and this won't work for for this very reason, that this is not in the same directory as the notebook. You need to do you need to give the reference position with reference to the folder. So doing data and then this will give us first open the data folder and then get the CSV file. And I had explained how to get this data set in the first video as well, thinking that I might be able to cover the 10 minutes in just one video, but I was so wrong. And I'll just show it again how you can get this data. Just simply search Stack Overflow uh, survey survey 2020, and you'll get this link going here. Sorry, the second link, insights.stack overflow, and here you can just download the full data set. And yeah, so I've shown you how to read the data, and now we're heading this in this HDF5 territory. I've never used HDF5. I don't even know what that is. So once again, Google to the rescue. HDF5. HDF5 hierarchical data format is a set of file formats designed to store and organize large amounts of data. Okay, hierarchical data format. Okay, so that's the full form for HDF. You can do a pd.read HDF. Okay, first you can convert them to HDF as well. Df.toHDF and this. So it should convert, create a HDF file in the same directory. You can see there's an asterisk here right now. So what it was doing was in the process of doing the conversion, and we have the H5 file right here. But yeah, right now I don't have any means to open it. I can read the file once again, and reading the file gives me back the data. So yeah, what does this df actually do? I'm not quite sure. What happens if I remove it? Okay, so I guess df specifies the data frame here. Yep, excel is quite standard. We've all worked with excel countless times, I reckon. So you can just do a simple uh, command df to excel. You'll see these are all quite similar: df to hdf, df to csv, and so on. So df to excel is going to convert the data frame to an excel file. You can again just go and see this is your excel workbook. And if I can just change the view, with details, and is there no way to? Okay, I'll just show what the difference is. You can see the slight difference, the workbook here and the comma separated values file here. So now we are going to have a look at the workbook in this case, and this is the workbook we have. Yeah, so pretty much the same as CSV. I'll have to pause here for a second. Seems like someone is at the door. Yeah, that was just my mother warning me that she's going to use the mixer, so I should pause for a few seconds, or I'll get all that audio in the video as well. So yeah, what did this what this did was just do the same Excel stuff, convert this into an Excel workbook, and place you can specify the sheet, so it places it into sheet one. So now let's look ahead. Yeah, you can also read from the Excel file quite similarly. Just do pd.read excel, the file name, the sheet name, and you can set the index column to none, the na values to na. What this does is for every na value, it reads them, changes them to this capital Na. So it might be easier to work with them. So here we have this, and just like that, we are done with the getting data in and out form. And now we are at this final gotchas part. I'm not quite sure how you pronounce that. If you are attempting to perform an operation, you might see an exception like this. So if pd.series false comma true comma false, print I was there, I was true. Trace back, value error. The truth value of an array is ambiguous. Use a.empty, a.any, or a.all. See comparisons for an explanation and what to do. See gotchas as well. I'm not sure if this is supposed to be a part of this. Okay, so these are some advanced things. We won't be looking at them in this 10 minutes to panda series. So yeah, it was quite a fun ride in fact, and I found a few places where I could in fact contribute to the documentation, the open source, because the documentation itself is open source. If you guys found some places where you feel you could probably do a better job writing that stuff out, adding an explanation, then you can also go to the documentation website and uh, look for the contribution section. I've never contributed before, but I feel like I can do a good job in explaining a few stuff or pointing some stuff out. For instance, here it would have been better if they had mentioned that these two lines should be run in the same place in the Jupyter notebook. Otherwise, it wouldn't have worked like it did in my case. So yeah, thank you guys for this, for the support throughout these videos, and do comment down below if you feel I should do any other series, any other documentation, and do give me suggestions. This was the first time I was reading any sort of documentation, and also I'll be linking the video series which I referred to in the past, which was very helpful for me, and they were basically two YouTubers, Keith and Corey, both of which are tremendous, uh, both of which have put together tremendous tutorials, and you can have a look at them as well. So thank you guys, and adios amigos.